Would you like to learn how to drift? Would you like to learn to drift from me? Would you like to learn to drift from me 18 years ago? Well, thanks to the power of finding stuff when I clean up, we can do just that. Drift Battle DVD. That's right, kids, we had to pay for YouTube videos back in the day. A bit of backstory first. I used to work for a publishing company in Australia that made magazines like this, High Performance Imports. Back then there was a big boom of Japanese imports, and these magazines were pretty popular. Like I wrote this article and this article on the 1JZ meeting. Look, even back then I was covering Itasha. And the editor at the time came up with this magazine, Drift Battle, the only dedicated drifting magazine outside of Japan. I wrote a bunch of articles for this one too, like that. I think the name is a combination of Battle Magazine and Drift Tengoku, and only this one is published these days. Back then, a lot of magazines made DVDs to either sell alongside or on the cover, and they made this one. Only one was ever made, and Ben wanted to have a how to drift section on that DVD, so for some reason he asked me to do it, and what we're going to do today is watch those lessons and see, are they still valid lessons? Like, did I know what I was talking about, or is it bad advice these days? All right, here we go. How to drift. The Drift Battle Guide. By the way, I made this 3D animation right here. A man of many skills. So this is the track we're at. It's called Oran Park, which was in Sydney, Australia. It's now a housing development, as most racetracks eventually turn into. And this is my car, 180SX. I bought it stock and as you can see, ruined it. And there's 25-year-old Alexi, who's the kind of guy who turns up to track days in white cargo pants. So let's see what I have to say.
Okay, the first technique is the handbrake. Now, the way you do this is, you put your foot on the clutch, put your hand on the handbrake. If you don't have a drift button, make sure you put your finger on the button so you can put it back down. Look where you're going to go, turn into the corner, push the clutch down, give the handbrake a good yank like that. If you don't, give it a good quick pull like that, you're not going to start sliding. So you need to pull it hard enough to break traction. At the same time, you need to turn into the corner hard enough to get the car to slide and go sideways. If you just pull the handbrake in a straight line, the car's going to slide in a straight line, and it could even start sliding the wrong way. So you don't want to do that. So once again, line up, look where you're going to go, foot on the clutch, handbrake, pull, just like that. One motion like that. And of course, then you got to counter steer.
Okay, let's just pause that for a second. First of all, I think we need to appreciate my Sydney inner west accent right there. That is my natural accent, which has slowly degraded over the years because I don't live in Australia anymore. But yeah, that's the real me. Also, that amazing long haircut that I used to have back then, and a lot skinnier as well, as you tend to be when you're younger, and you're a drift driver, and you're spending all your money on tires and fuel instead of food. All right, here we go. Handbrake entries.
As the rear tyres start to regain grip, push the throttle to get the wheels spinning so you can keep drifting. Okay, you see how it is. You go into the corner, give the handbrake a yank, counter steer. You got to make sure though, when you pull the handbrake, you put your foot on the clutch like that. If you don't, the car probably won't lock up the rear wheels. It's basically like doing an old skid on your BMX bike. When you're a little kid, you know, you give the foot brake a bit of a kick,
okay,
you slide, and that's about it. Except in a car, you've got a power to keep it going.
Oh God, okay, pause. All right, so far it's make sure you put the clutch in, make sure you put the handbrake back down, and make sure you counter steer. Yeah, this is very basic advice. I mean, I've seen people try and learn how to drift, and yeah, sometimes you just forget to do those things because you are using every arm and leg to do it. So I don't know if I would have started out with that advice again, but it is all valid.
Okay, one more time with the handbrake. I'm not actually going that fast, so it's a fairly easy technique to get the hang of.
Sure.
Turn in, push the clutch down, pull the handbrake. Okay, what we're going to do now...
Okay, pause. So push the clutch in, turn the wheel, pull the handbrake, and then, as I said in the voiceover, make sure you use accelerator to keep the wheels spinning. I mean, that's basically what a basic drift is, so thumbs up for that advice. This is how you normally learn to drift, using a cone.
What we're going to do now is, see that cone over there? We'll do some donuts around it. Now, you might not think that donuts are a drift technique, it's more of a burnout thing.
Wait. Okay, two things there. I love my accent. We're going to do some donuts around it. And second, did you hear that sound in the background just there? That is the most early 2000s sound ever. Let's listen again. Listen.
We'll do some donuts around it.
Listen.
Now, you might not think that donuts are a drift technique, it's more...
Can you hear that? That's the sound of a mobile phone of that era interfering with the speakers in the car door. Anyone who lived through that era, you know that sound. All right, one more time.
See that cone over there? We'll do some donuts around it. Now, you might not think that donuts are a drift technique, it's more of a burnout thing. Well, yeah, it is. But it's a good technique for learning how to control the throttle and how to control the steering. If you can go around a donut nice and tight, that's really good. Okay, let's give it a try.
All right, I like where this is going.
Okay, you turn it in and just kick dump the clutch.
Kick dump the clutch.
Use a combination of throttle control and steering to change the radius of your circle.
Yeah. You go bigger, and then you go smaller, and then you go bigger again. So now I'm really tight on it, and then I go out wide again. One more. There you go. And stop nice and straight.
Okay, that flapping noise you can hear.
All right, pause. I think you can learn almost every basic drift skill with like 2 construction cones, and that's it. You go really tight around one cone, and then you go out, bigger diameter, and then in again, and then maybe get another cone and start doing figure 8s, and you start linking them and things like that. Like, that is the best basic skill to learn, because you're learning accelerated control and steering control and that kind of balance in between the two. And the best thing is you can practice it almost anywhere, and you can practice it in the rain, and you won't use any tires, and all you need are 2 of those orange cones. So learning donuts around a cone, I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up, because that's probably one of the best things for beginners to learn how to do.
Okay, that flapping noise you could hear before was this. It was the bits of rubber coming off the tyre. As you can see, it's down to the canvas here. That's this stuff. First you go down to the canvas, and then you go down to the belt. That's when you start getting all the sparks. You don't really get much grip when the tyre's in this sort of state. So once it gets to this, you're fairly limited to doing slow drift. You don't get much control either, and the car tends to spin out a lot, especially if you're trying to come in under high speed and you pull the handbrake or clutch kick. You don't get much response, but then again, you want to get your dollar's worth out of your tyre, so you stay out for as long as you can.
Sure. Okay. Get your dollar's worth out of your tyre and use them all the way down to the belts. I can stand behind that.
Okay, this is the tyre that was on the right-hand side of the car. Now, this side of the car wasn't weighted as much in all those corners, so it hasn't worn down as much as the one on the other side has. So I suppose you could still use this if you wanted.
The tyre on the outside of the car wears down first, usually.
And put a brand new one on the other side. So we're going to throw this away.
Okay.
Okay, the next...
Oh, torque wrench. Torque wrench. Always use a torque wrench.
Next one you're most likely to use in a competition is the clutch kick. Now, what's great about the clutch kick is it keeps your speed going.
Okay, wait, I got to stop here. I remember we were talking about filming this, and Ben said he wanted to have like a learn how to drift for competition slant on it, because that's what everyone wanted to do. And I remember thinking I don't want to do a whole lot of clutch kick stuff because it's not good for beginners in many ways, but let's see what we have to say.
Okay, the next one you're most likely to use in a competition is the clutch kick. Now, what's great about the clutch kick is it keeps your speed going, and it can even accelerate you while you're entering the drift corner. So to do a clutch kick, you make sure you got to accelerate. If you're not accelerating, it's not going to happen. Put your foot down on the accelerator so the engine is revving up.
Mm-hmm.
Put your foot on the clutch.
Yep.
Now, pick your gear, be it second or third. Look where you want to go. Go one way, and then give it a sharp yank, and you kick like that. Make sure you got the accelerator down. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen.
And you counter steer.
Slow one first.
And you counter steer after that. That was a good explanation of how to start a clutch kick drift, but we've all seen what happens when people, those leaving a car show videos on YouTube. Like, what happens after you kick the clutch and you don't control it?
Second gear, do it about 60
kilometers an hour. Yeah.
See that? The car came out nicely and had plenty of power and plenty of speed to keep going.
Yeah.
Also, you should have seen there, when I came around the corner, I wound off the lock. If you wait until you get all the way around the corner before you wind the lock back,
Yeah.
you're going to have too much lock, the car will straighten up, and it'll spit you off onto the side of the road.
There you go.
Okay, once again, we're going to try the clutch kick. A bit faster this time. Still go back to second gear.
All right.
But about 80.
Kilometers an hour. See, that's a bit better there. All right, let's just stop here and explain what I'm thinking. I don't like the idea of teaching clutch kicks to beginners because you have to do them at slow speed, and it's way too violent a thing to do when you're going kind of slow. Like, I don't really even use clutch kicks that much now, only at higher speeds when the car is already sort of on the edge of grip and you just give it that little bit to get it over the edge.
If you're in a competition, you can start sliding, you keep plenty of speed, so the guy behind you, even though you're drifting, unless he's doing the same thing, they can't keep up.
Okay, I know why I said this. I know why I said what I just said. I'd done a competition at this track, and I was up against this guy, and I always thought he was fast, and I entered behind him. I did a big clutch kick entering behind him, and he pulled the handbrake and just slowed right down, and I had to jump on the brake, and I spun out. I was like, oh, come on, I thought you were faster than that. So I was always trying to encourage people to go faster on their entries, just because I like to do that because I thought it was cool. So maybe that's me sort of encouraging people to go faster on their entries. I don't know.
This time, we'll do the same thing, but we'll do a 1-2, okay?
Okay.
This is good because it means you can start drifting from earlier and keep your speed up. Okay, we'll do it second gear again just to keep it simple.
That was the sort of thing to do at this track, this 1-2 entry. You swing one way and then the other. Yeah, encouraging people to straighten up and not like flick back and go off the course.
If you don't wind off your steering and you mess up,
yeah,
you're going to go straight off the side of the road.
Yeah, okay, pause. The shirt I'm wearing in this video is from Initial Drift, which is the drift club that ran at this track. Like, I was one of the guys who helped run it. And we ran, at this point, we were running track days about once a month at this track, which was great, but we saw a lot of people crash. So I guess that was me sort of encouraging people to don't forget to wind off the lock and not crash. So I don't know. Yeah, sort of a halfway thumbs up. Like, I'm trying to salvage it, but I don't think it's a good idea to recommend clutch kicks to beginners.
Okay, once again, the 1-2 clutch kick. Second gear. Go left, go right, kick. Notice how I let the wheel spin in my hands, as it's often faster to let the wheel turn by itself. Just be ready to grab it at the right moment.
Yeah. I sure am letting it spin. All right, pause. Drift steering is one of those weird things where it changes depending on what level you're at and also what your personal preferences are. Just now I was saying I let the wheel spin through my fingers. That's generally considered to be a bad thing. In Japanese they call it shuru shuru handle, as in like shuru shuru is like a sound of sliding like through your fingers. Most teachers here recommend that you stay in control of the car and try and like trace the wheel and things like that, because it'll give you a better idea of where the steering wheel is and where your wheels are facing. That said, if you watch pro drivers, some of them barely touch the wheel, it seems like, because they have the car under their full control and they don't need to give it a whole lot of like steering input because they're using like they're driving on the rear end of the car instead, which is like a completely different thing altogether to learning to drift. So letting it slide through your fingers, don't do that. Try and trace the steering wheel when you're a beginner. I think I need to make a 2023 revision of this video.
Okay, there's a few other important things about the interior of a drift car, not just the engine and the suspension. You've got to make sure that the steering wheel is nice and close to you. As you can see, it's not very far away from me. Also, it clears my legs. If it's going to be spinning a lot, I'm going to be trying to counter. I don't want it hitting my knees.
All right, pause. Yeah, make sure the steering wheel is easy to use. I mean, most driving instructors say, like, you put your hands forward like a zombie, and it should be at least under your wrist. But most drift drivers have it a bit further back than that.
Okay, now we're going to do manji. It's a Japanese word. It means sway, like a leaf falling. We call it a snaky or a fishy. It's a fun way to go down a straight. If you can link it.
A snaky or a fishy? Did we ever call it that? Also, by the way, the word manji in Japanese, it has, the history behind that for, this kind of motion. It has a whole different meaning, but that's for another video.
In a corner, it's even better. So you turn and kick the clutch.
Ugh, these clutch kicks I'm doing. Well, I linked all the corners pretty well.
As you can see, I'm not using the steering wheel very much. Most of this is controlled by your right foot, by the accelerator.
Yeah.
You just have to feel when the car wants to switch back and forth.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's a good drift technique. It teaches you how the car's going to react and when it's going to switch back. Switching back and forwards is a difficult technique to master in drifting. As you can see, I can't even do it that well myself. But it's
you're pretty good, I think.
The best way to modulate the drift is to just gently let the accelerator on and off. Don't go bam, bam like that quite so much. Especially if your car's not as set up as it should be, like this one is. This is fairly stock suspension.
Oh, God. Yeah, it was pretty stock. It had coilovers and, I think, rack spacers. It didn't have knuckles. Nobody had knuckles back then. Lick the corner. Nice. And there goes a tire. Oh, the can.
You gotta stay well hydrated when you're drifting.
Okay, I remember where I got that can. I think we had the track from like 1 until 4 p.m. So I got some drive-through at the Myrone Red Rooster, for anyone who lives in Sydney. All right, manji drift. I know these days a lot of people say, don't manji the straight and things like that. I agree with that. I think it's cooler to speed up for a corner and hit the corner. However, what I'm saying here, this is in Japanese, they also call it komanji, or small manji. It is a good technique to get used to the feel of the car switching back and forth. Like if you can keep a good rhythm, if you don't let the car get away from you and spin out, it is good training. But generally people look down upon people doing that these days at track days because you kind of get in the way of other people. It's not predictable. It used to be more of a street thing because like for example, down on the docks, where it's like one corner and like a bunch of straights that join that. You sort of keep it going for the crowd and it's kind of fun because that's sort of the thing to do. These days, nobody really does it. So if you want to practice manji, it's good practice, but don't do it so much on the track. I mean, it's good practice. You can see there, I was like linking the corners without changing the rhythm. Like that's good, judging distance and things like that. But I wouldn't really do manji at the track unless you were there by yourself. So don't do that.
When you're setting up your car for drifting, you don't need to go straight for a big turbo or intercooler or any of that sort of power stuff. There's quite a few things you can take care of first, which will make the car much better to drift. Things like strut brace. This stiffens up the car, stiffens the response, especially in an S13. They're known to having a weak front end. Things like socks over the reservoirs. As you're drifting, fluids tend to spill out. Especially over here, it can spill down onto the turbo, which can cause a fire.
Okay, wait. I don't know. That was such a JDM thing back then. We'd see we'd see photos from Japan, like, they put like gloves over their reservoirs, and so we just did it.
When you're going out to the track, you got to make sure you have an overflow bottle and a securely clamped down battery. They're going to look for this when they inspect the car. Yeah. You also have to take care
wait, pause. Like I said before, we ran a lot of track days. You would not believe how many people show up with a loose battery. Or it's held in with a ratchet strap. One thing we saw way too much of was the battery would move and it would short out on the bonnet, like on the inside.
You also have to take care of the cooling of your car. The most important one is the oil. As you can see here, there's a big oil cooler. Oil tends to reach temperatures of over 120 degrees, which is when it starts to get pretty bad. So you want to make sure
GDR oil cooler I put on.
A remote mount can help with the maintenance of the car as well. It makes it a bit easier to change the oil. So while you're doing that, you might as well do this. Okay, one of the most important things about it.
Fair enough. Yeah, install an oil cooler and a remote mount because you're more likely to change it. I agree with that because that's what I did.
Okay, one of the most important things about a drift car is the suspension. This car has Tane coilovers. As you can see here, the adjustable tops.
It's pronounced
These are set to
Tane.
maximum camber. More camber, which is where the wheels are set like that, negative camber, increases the twitchiness of the car and the responsiveness. So when you turn in, it wants to turn. It doesn't just understeer. Also, a good thing to have are adjustable caster rods. These increase the response of the car as you're drifting by helping you turn the wheels and helping them correct. Okay, probably.
Oh wow, I had no idea what I was talking about. Yeah, I still had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying stuff, and if it worked, I was like, oh cool. Changing the caster rods probably made the car feel better because most people had stock caster rods back then, and they were kind of worn out, so it would just immediately make the car feel better. Most people just set the caster to stock back then anyway. It's like, oh, okay, well it works. And yeah, I had you can see on the car here those yellow stickers. That was my alignment shop. It was run by this old guy who raced a BMW, and he thought it was hilarious. Like I'd come in and say, "Hey, can you set up the car this way? And I can try it out." And he'd be like, "Yeah, well, you're the customer, all right." And I'd try stuff, and I'd come back and I'd say, "Can we change it back the other way or do that?" And he'd be like, "Yeah." I mean, I kept going there so much. I think he was just happy to see me show up and pay so much money to get the car aligned in all these different ways.
Okay, probably the most important thing about any drift car is the LSD. This car's been fitted with a two-way Cusco mechanical LSD. Now, what LSDs do is lock up the wheels under power and also, with a two-way, under deceleration. Some people prefer to have a one-way or a 1.5-way. They work only either under acceleration, and a 1.5-way works slightly under deceleration. It depends on your technique, but in this case, I prefer a two-way. It's very aggressive. When you back off the accelerator, the car wants to come out as well, and when you floor it, it keeps going. It helps with turn-in if you're nice and aggressive. If you're not very aggressive though, it does make the car understeer. So the first time you install an LSD, the car will tend to be quite scary and want to go straight off if you're not used to it.
That is true.
So after you get the hang of it, it's a great thing to have.
All right, pause. I will die on this hill. I think clutch pack LSDs are way superior to a lock diff if you're a beginner. I know that's going to annoy a lot of people. I know that it's like, well, it's a choice between costing nothing and costing like $1,500. But I've driven lots of cars. I've driven cars with lock diffs and LSDs, and honestly, it's like an LSD is like doing stuff with bare hands, and a lock diff is like wearing gloves. And I know people are going to say, well, what about pro drift cars? They all have lock diffs. That's a completely different thing. So for beginners, if it's a street car especially, clutchback LSD, I recommend that. So thumbs up, double thumbs up. No, like 10 thumbs up for that advice.
Okay, here we go. The 1, 2, 3 clutch kick. Use the whole straight at driftland. So third gear, flat out.
It's Oran Park North course. We call it Driftland. Yep.
I've just blown third gear.
And that's why I don't recommend clutch kicks. Right there. That's Ben.
Right,
Also, that's his Century in the background.
Alright, I just broke third gear doing that clutch kick. Yeah, even though this is stock power, SR20 boxes aren't known for having got a good third gear, so, you know, that's drift, isn't it? Luckily, I've still got second and fourth, so I can get home on that at least. But,
That's true. I did drive home with the broken gearbox. More power.
That sounds nasty, doesn't it?
All right, so this was the magazine demo car. CA18 powered.
It's the CA18.
Which you don't see that much anymore.
Work a bit harder to keep it on boost.
It had just been freshly built and it had a pretty big turbo on it.
Since this is my first time in the car, we'll take it easy. We'll start off with a simple handbrake drift.
Yeah, no more clutch kicks straight away to...
Okay, that's fun. It's kind of laggy. Actually, it's very laggy. I have to work a lot harder to keep it up in the power band.
It was your first lap. You're just getting used to it. Don't you have to make excuses yet. Come on. Yeah, so I think the rest of this video is just like Ben just wanted me to get in some like, you know, demonstration laps. This car was fun because you really had to lean on it really hard to get it up into the power band, but once it was there, it was really good. It was fun. So here's SR20 driving me, just like waiting for the torque.
I don't have as much power coming out of the corner. That's because I'm used to my other car.
Oh, here you go.
SR20,
There you go.
which has got a bit less, which has got a bit more torque.
There you go.
So I guess these are
I haven't changed.
Drivers of maybe C18s or maybe sprinters should be trying. You've got to remember. Here's one
You're
more
right.
thing you've got to remember.
Yeah.
Keep the engine revving.
Keep the engine revving.
Pulling the handbrake.
Right.
You can do that by pushing in the clutch with your left foot and revving with your right.
So rev the engine while you've got the clutch in. Okay. Look, I think at this point I'm just making things up as I'm going along.
Did you see that? You can hear the engine slow down as it went around the corner. I thought I had enough power.
I actually did kick the clutch.
The engine started to lag. So I tried to kick the clutch. And what kicking the clutch does when you're halfway around the corner is it brings the revs up and hopefully you get it up in the boost. It's also useful even if you're in an underpowered, even a non-turbo car like a Sprinter. Gets the revs up in the
Yeah, so we just called A86s sprinters back then because that's what they were. Oh, I miss this track so much. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, this car's great.
I had the same laugh as I do now. That's great. There you go. Yeah, this the North course at Oran had great spectating area as well. You could watch the entire thing. All right, there we go. All right, that's it. So overall, I think I give my segment on the Drift Battle DVD 1 thumb up. It was look, for the time, there was no other real English option for learning how to drift. Like the only other option was the Drift Bible, which had been translated into English. I don't know if it was after that or before this. Look, honestly, a lot of the things that I talked about on this DVD was things that I learned from option videos, like Nomiken's drift lessons and things like that. And then I just sort of remembered that and paraphrased it into English for this video. Do we need a modern version of this? Give me a thumbs up in the video if you think we need a modern version of a drifting lesson video. I'll have to start planning that out. So subscribe to the channel if you want to see the drift lesson video when it does come out. Also, thanks to all these people here. This is my tier 3 subs over on Patreon. That's right, we've got a Patreon. They get to see the videos early and get involved, see behind the scenes videos, AMAs and things like that. Here's some more videos for you to watch. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. Bye.